My name is Luke, and the last thing I remember before this moment is dying in a hospital bed under fluorescent lights that hummed like dying insects. Now I wake up sprawled across cold stone in absolute darkness, and my hands are slick with something wet that I desperately hope is mud. The air here tastes wrong, damp and mineral, and every breath echoes back at me from invisible walls that could be inches or miles away. I push myself up to sitting, and my palms slide against the rough cave floor. Pain shoots through my ribs like someone kicked them repeatedly, and I have to bite down on a groan. My mind races through impossible memories. 42 years as an accountant named David Chun, a heart attack at my desk, then nothing, then this body that moves wrong and feels too young. The darkness presses in from all sides, and something skitters across stone somewhere to my left. My heart hammers against my chest hard enough to hurt, and I force myself to breathe slowly through my nose. This is not the afterlife I expected, and this body is not mine, yet somehow I can feel every nerve ending screaming that I am trapped in a place designed to kill me. I reach out with trembling fingers and touch the cave wall beside me. The stone is slick with moisture, almost slimy, and I jerk my hand back. A faint sound reaches my ears, like water moving over rocks, and I latch onto that sound like a drowning man grabbing driftwood. Water means a way forward, maybe even a way out if I can find the source. My eyes adjust slowly, revealing shapes in shades of black and gray. The sticky substance on my hands looks dark, probably blood, though I cannot tell if it is mine or something else's. I pat down this unfamiliar body and find rough cloth, a torn shirt, pants that end raggedly at my calves. No shoes, no weapons, no supplies except a small lump in my right pocket that crinkles when I squeeze it. I fish out the object and feel dried meat wrapped in oiled paper. The scent hits me immediately, salt and smoke and something gamey, and my stomach clenches with sudden desperate hunger. Whatever happened to the original owner of this body, he at least had the sense to keep food on him before he died, and I woke up wearing his skin like a stolen coat. The water sound grows louder as I crawl forward on hands and knees. My palms scrape against loose gravel, and something sharp cuts into my right knee. I ignore it because stopping means thinking, and thinking means facing the impossible reality that I died and came back as someone else in a world that smells like danger and tastes like fear. A thin trickle of water appears ahead, reflecting what little light filters from some distant source I cannot see. I reach the small creek and cup my hands, bringing the cold liquid to my lips. The water tastes clean, almost sweet, and I drink until my stomach feels heavy and my mind clears enough to make decisions instead of just react. I unwrap the dried meat from my pocket and tear off a small piece with my teeth. The jerky is tough and salty, and I force myself to chew slowly even though everything in me wants to devour it all at once. 3 more strips remain in the paper, maybe enough for one more meal if I stretch it, and then I will have nothing unless I figure out how to hunt or forage. The system knowledge from my previous life feels useless here. I knew spreadsheets and tax codes, not survival skills or combat training. But this body carries muscle memory that is not mine, small hints of how to move through wilderness, and I cling to those instincts like they might save me. My hands remember how to tie knots, even though David Chun never learned that skill in 42 years of suburban living. I finish the meat and tuck the oil paper back into my pocket because waste is not something I can afford anymore. The darkness feels less oppressive now that I have water and food in my belly, and a strange determination settles over me like a cloak. This is my second chance, however it happened, and I refuse to waste it dying alone in a cave before I even see sunlight. I gather smooth stones from around the creek and stack them carefully into a small cairn. The motion feels important, almost ritual, marking the spot as the place where I stopped being David Chun forever and accepted being Luke in whatever hostile world I have been dropped into. This pile of rocks becomes my first landmark, my 0 point for measuring how far I can climb from nothing. The creek flows deeper into the cave, but a faint gray light glows from the opposite direction. I choose light over darkness and start walking along the creek bank, one hand trailing the wall for balance. My bare feet find purchase on the slick stone, and that borrowed muscle memory guides me forward step by careful step until the passage widens and brightens. Sunlight hits my face like a physical blow after the cave darkness. I stumble out into a dense forest where trees tower overhead and undergrowth tangles thick between their trunks. Birds call from the canopy, and insects buzz through shafts of light that pierce the green shadows. The forest is beautiful and terrible, full of life that probably includes things with teeth and claws. I have no weapons, no tools, and barely enough food to last until tomorrow. The smart move would be finding shelter and staying hidden until I understand the dangers here. But my stomach will not stay full on 3 strips of jerky, and staying still means dying slow instead of fast. I move through the undergrowth as quietly as this body knows how, scanning for anything useful. Thick vines hang from low branches, and I remember hands that are not mine weaving these in a rope. I gather several lengths and start twisting them together, my fingers working through patterns I've never learned, but this body has not forgotten. The forest opens into a small clearing ringed by young saplings. Animal tracks mark the soft earth near a fallen log, small hoof prints that could be rabbit or something similar. I study the tracks and the worn path between the trees, then set to work building a simple snare using the vine rope and a bent sapling that will snap upward when triggered. My hands shake while I work because this is the difference between eating and starving. I position the noose carefully over the game trail and disguise it with fallen leaves. The trigger mechanism is crude but functional, and I back away to hide behind a thick oak trunk 20 paces distant. Waiting tests every nerve in my body. The sun climbs higher, and sweat soaks to my torn shirt. Flies buzz around my head, and something large moves through the forest to the west, snapping branches that sound like breaking bones. I press against the oak bark and pray that whatever it is does not catch my scent. An hour passes, maybe more, and my legs cramp from holding still. Then a small brown rabbit hops into the clearing, nose twitching as it samples the air. The creature moves with the caution of something that knows it is prey, pausing every few steps to check for danger. It approaches the game trail, and my heart pounds so loud I worry the rabbit can hear it. The animal takes one more hop forward, and its back leg catches the trigger. The sapling whips upward with a sharp crack, and the noose tightens around the rabbit's body before it can bolt. I rush forward as the rabbit thrashes and squeals, my hands close around its body, and muscle memory guides me through the quick motion that breaks its neck and ends a noise. The sudden weight of the dead animal in my hands fills me with horror and triumph in equal measure, because I have never killed anything before, but I just proved I can survive. I did it. I whisper to the empty forest, and my voice sounds strange in my ears. The rabbit is warm and soft, and I can already imagine the meat cooked over a fire. This is one step forward, one small proof that David Chen's spreadsheet skills can be replaced with Luke's survival instincts. I retrieve my snare and check the mechanism, already thinking about where to set it next and what other animals might wander through this forest. Something howls in the distance, long and low and full of hunger. The sound raises every hair on my body, and I clutch the rabbit against my chest. Wolves? Probably, and they will smell the blood soon if they have not already picked up my trail. I need fire, shelter, and weapons in that order. The cave is too exposed and too far from resources. But standing here frozen with fear will not solve anything. So I force my legs to move back toward the creek, where I can at least defend one direction with my back to the water. The forest feels different now that I have proven I can take from it. I am not just prey hiding in the shadows. I am a hunter with a kill, and this is where my new life truly begins. I sit by the small fire I built from dry branches and kindling, watching the orange flames dance against the darkening sky. The rabbit cooks slowly on a sharpened stick propped over the heat, its skin beginning to char and crackle. Smoke rises in a thin column that disappears into the canopy above, and the smell of roasting meat makes my stomach clench with hunger. I turn the stick carefully to keep the meat from burning on one side, while the other stays raw. The warmth on my face feels like the first real comfort I've had since waking up in this strange place. I think about the life I left behind, the memories that feel both sharp and distant at the same time. Everything I knew is gone now, replaced by trees and dirt and the constant need to find food and water. This fire, this meal, this clearing, it's the closest thing I have to normal in a world that doesn't feel like it should exist. I pull the rabbit off the flames and bite into the hot meat, ignoring the way it burns my tongue. The taste is gamey and tough, but it's food, and that's enough. The silence around me grows heavier as the sun drops below the horizon and darkness creeps in from all sides. I eat alone, chew alone, sit alone, and the weight of that solitude presses down on my chest like a physical thing. Back in my old life, I was surrounded by people, noise, the hum of civilization that I never appreciated until now. Here, there's nothing but the crackle of fire and the distant sounds of the forest settling into night. I finish the rabbit and toss the bones into the flames, watching them blacken and split. I need to find other people, I realize, even if they're strangers in this hostile land. The idea of spending weeks or months alone in these woods makes something cold settle in my gut. I wipe my hands on my pants and make a silent promise to myself that I'll seek out Ward Village or any settlement I can find. Connection, community, even just another voice. I need that to stay sane. The buzzing starts just as I'm trying to settle down for sleep near the dying fire. Insects swarm out of the darkness, their high-pitched whine filling the air around my head like a living cloud. I swat at them with both hands, but they land on my face, my neck, my arms, biting through my clothes. One gets in my ear, and I shake my head violently, digging at it with my finger until it flies away. The bites sting like tiny needles, and I can feel welts rising on my skin. I sit up and feed more wood into the fire, hoping the smoke will drive them off. It helps a little, but not enough, and I spend the next hour slapping at my own skin and cursing. The discomfort is more than just annoying. It's dangerous, a reminder that I'm completely exposed out here. Without proper shelter, I'm vulnerable to everything from bugs to rain to whatever predators might be hunting at night. I pull my knees to my chest and endure it, but my jaw is clenched tight with frustration. This is ridiculous. I mutter to the empty clearing, my voice hoarse from lack of use. By the time dawn breaks, I'm exhausted and covered in bites, but my mind is made up. I need a shelter before the next nightfall, something with walls and a roof that can keep the insects and weather out. I stand up stiffly, my back aching from sleeping on the hard ground, and look around the forest with new purpose. The trees here are thick and sturdy, perfect for building if I can figure out how to work with them. I move through the wooded area, testing branches and trunks with my hands until I find what I'm looking for. A fallen branch as thick as my forearm lies half buried in leaves, its wood still solid despite being on the ground. I drag it back to my clearing and use the sharp rock from yesterday to start carving away the bark and smaller offshoots. My hands blister quickly, the repetitive motion wearing at skin that's already raw from the rabbit hunt. Sweat drips down my forehead despite the cool morning air. The branch slowly transforms under my efforts, 1 inch sharpened and flattened into something resembling a blade. I carve the other end into a handle that fits comfortably in my grip, testing the balance and weight. It's crude compared to any real shovel, but when I press the flat edge against the ground and push down, it bites into the soil. Pride swells in my chest as I hold up my creation, this tool born from necessity and desperation. This wooden shovel might not look like much, but it's mine, proof that I can adapt and survive. I survey the clearing and choose a spot near a cluster of trees that will provide natural support for walls. The ground there is relatively flat, free of large rocks that would make digging impossible. I position my shovel and drive it into the earth with both hands, feeling the resistance as packed dirt gives way. Each scoop is an effort that makes my shoulders burn, but I keep going, building a rhythm. The foundation starts to take shape as I work through the morning, a shallow trench outlining where my shelter will stand. My muscles scream in protest, and my hands throb where new blisters have formed over old ones. The soil is tougher than I expected, full of roots and small stones that catch on my makeshift tool. I have to stop every few minutes to catch my breath and wipe the sweat from my eyes. Without anyone to teach me proper construction techniques, I'm making this up as I go, relying on vague memories of survival shows and common sense. But with each shovelful of dirt I remove, I feel something shift inside me, a sense of accomplishment that pushes back against the fear and loneliness. This hole in the ground represents progress, a concrete step toward making this place livable. I pause to examine my work, the trench now deep enough that I can see the darker soil beneath the topsoil layer. It's not much, but it's a start, and that means everything. The sun climbs higher overhead as I continue digging, and I know I still have hours of work ahead before this shelter becomes real. My stomach growls again, reminding me that I'll need to hunt soon, but for now, I keep digging. The wooden shovel holds together despite my rough treatment, and I make a mental note to craft more tools when I have time. An axe, maybe, or a better knife, things that will make survival less of a constant struggle. I think about the people I might find in Ward Village, the alliances I could forge, and the knowledge they might share. But first, I need this shelter, this foundation of safety that will give me a base to work from. I drive the shovel down again, feeling the impact travel up my arms. One scoop at a time, I'm building something that matters. I stand quietly by the riverbank with my fishing line cast into the clear water ahead. The sun sits high overhead and warms the back of my neck while I wait for movement. My fingers grip the rough branch I'd carved into a makeshift pole just this morning. The river flows steadily and carries small ripples that catch the light in shifting patterns. I feel a sudden tug pull hard against my hand, and my pulse quickens with recognition. I tighten my grip and begin reeling in the line with careful motions. The fish fights back and sends tremors up through the branch into my palms. Water splashes near the edge as the creature thrashes and tries to break free from the hook. I plant my feet more firmly in the soft mud and lean back to counter the weight. The fish emerges from the water in a spray of droplets, and I catch sight of its silver scales gleaming. My hands work quickly to secure the catch before it can slip away and escape back into the current. The fish lands on the bank beside me and flops wildly against the grass. I press my knee down to hold it still and carefully remove the crude hook from its mouth. This one weighs more than I expected and will provide at least 2 solid meals if I'm careful with portions. I thread a length of vine through its gills and tie it to a nearby root so it stays fresh in the shallow water. 3 more times, I cast the line, and 3 more times, I pull another fish from the river with growing confidence. By the time I finish, the sun has moved noticeably westward, and my arms ache from the repeated effort. 5 large fish now hang from the vine and bob gently in the current beside the bank. I won't go hungry yet, and that thought brings a rare moment of satisfaction to my chest. The knowledge from my old life helps me understand where fish gather and how to read the water's movement. I wipe sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand and take a long breath. Movement catches my eye further upstream, where the trees grow denser along the water's edge. I crouch low and peer through the foliage with sudden alertness replacing my earlier calm. A herd of deer grazes peacefully in a small clearing about 50 paces away from my position. Their brown coats blend with the surrounding forest, and their ears twitch occasionally to catch distant sounds. My heart races as I count at least 7 animals moving slowly through the undergrowth and nibbling at low plants. The thought of a successful hunt sparks ambition deep in my mind, but reality tempers it quickly. I have no proper weapons beyond the stone knife tucked in my belt, and no real hunting experience from this new body. The deer remain unaware of my presence and continue their peaceful feeding routine without concern. I watch them for several long minutes and study how they move and where they pause to eat. Hunting with limited knowledge makes me hesitate, even though hunger will eventually force my hand. One of the larger deer lifts its head and scans the area with dark eyes that seem impossibly alert. I freeze completely and hold my breath until the animal returns its attention to the grass below. The entire herd could scatter in seconds if I make a single mistake or move too quickly. I realize I need to gather proper resources before attempting a hunt that could easily end in failure. Spears or snares would increase my chances, but both require time and materials I don't yet have stockpiled. I retreat slowly from my hiding spot behind the tree and make my way back toward the riverbank. The fish hanging from the vine represent certain food, while the deer represent only possibility and risk. I gather my catch and sling the line over my shoulder with the weight pulling against my back. The walk back to my shelter site takes less time now that I've memorized the terrain and landmarks. The clearing where I've been building comes into view through gaps in the trees ahead. Stones I collected earlier sit in rough piles near the base of a large oak tree. I set the fish down carefully in a shaded spot and turn my attention to the foundation work that still needs completion. The layered rocks provide a solid feeling beneath my hands when I lift and position each one. Sweat drips down my temples as I stack stone upon stone and create a low wall that will eventually support a sturdier shelter. Finding the right materials takes time and effort that drains my energy reserves with each passing hour. Some stones crumble when I test their weight, while others prove too heavy to move without assistance. I sort through the pile and select only pieces that fit together with minimal gaps between them. My fingers scrape against rough surfaces and leave small cuts that sting when sweat touches them. The physical exhaustion reminds me that this body still has limits despite the knowledge stored in my mind. Every stone collected adds to my confidence that I can actually survive in this hostile environment. The foundation grows longer and more stable with each addition to its length. I step back and examine my work with critical eyes that search for weaknesses in the structure. The wall stands barely 2 feet high, but already feels like a genuine accomplishment worth protecting. My old life never required this kind of manual labor or practical skill application. The sun begins its descent toward the horizon and paints the sky in shades of orange and pink. I wipe my hands on my torn pants and consider what tasks remain before darkness falls completely. The fish need cleaning and cooking, while the fire pit requires more preparation than I gave it this morning. My stomach growls loudly enough to echo in the quiet clearing and reminds me that success means nothing without follow-through. A distant sound reaches my ears from somewhere deeper in the forest behind my shelter site. I straighten immediately and turn toward the noise with tension spreading through my shoulders. The sound resembles heavy footsteps moving through underbrush, but carries more weight than any deer could produce. My mind flashes back to the massive bear tracks I discovered yesterday near the stream. The creature must be somewhere close and possibly aware of my presence in its territory. I move toward the stone knife, resting near my supply pile, and grip it tightly in my right hand. The blade feels inadequate against a threat that size, but having any weapon beats facing danger empty-handed. The footsteps grow slightly louder and seem to circle around the eastern edge of the clearing. My breathing becomes shallow as I scan the tree-line for movement or shadow that doesn't belong. Every instinct from my previous life screams that I'm unprepared for this kind of confrontation. The sound stops abruptly and leaves only silence pressing down on the clearing like a physical weight. I remain perfectly still and strain my ears for any hint of the creature's location or intention. Minutes pass without additional noise, but the feeling of being watched settles over me like cold water. Something dangerous shares this forest with me, and I've just begun to understand how precarious my survival really is. The bear represents only one threat among countless others lurking in this lawless land. I sense deeper danger ahead that extends beyond simple animal encounters or resource scarcity. The power dynamic in this world shifts constantly, and I stand at the bottom desperately trying to climb upward. My second chance at life won't mean anything if I can't overcome the challenges mounting around my small clearing. To be continued.